Hi, everybody. Kevin Ioli from Yahoo Sports, along with one of the great trainers in the world today, a good friend of mine and a guy that's been at this business. We've known each other a long time, Abel, so that tells people that we are old, but we're proud of being old, right? We're in this boxing game a
That's
long
a
time. Abel Sanchez, the Yahoo Sports Trainer of the Year, I should add, 2015, 2016, and nearly in 2017, but just missed out. How are you today, Abel?
I'm doing very well. I'm happy to be able to be talking to you. We had a successful year last year, so it's fun to be talking about that year.
Abel, for people who don't know, not only is the trainer of the great Gennady Golovkin in the argument for the pound for pound best fighter in the world, he's also the trainer for a guy that I absolutely love to watch him fight, Murat Gassiev. He will be in action in the World Boxing Super Series in Sochi, Russia on February 3rd. Gassiev is 25-0, 18 KOs in a really good fight against Junior Dorticos. He's also recently, I just learned this, I didn't know that you had Carlos Cuadras, but Carlos Cuadras, the super flyweight, is fighting McWilliams Arroyo, and he is training with you February 24th. That fight will be at the Forum in Inglewood, California. You're staying busy even when Gennady's not around, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I have to. I think that some of these young kids they want to train here and they want to train with me. So a lot of it is because they want to be around champions like Golovkin and like Gassiev. But Quadras requested that or should I say, his manager requested I speak with him 3 or 4 months ago, and I really wasn't interested because he's a smaller guy. He's only a 15-pounder, and I have a lot of bigger guys here in the gym, so we really don't have the kind of work for him. But once talking to him, I realized that he was so serious about what he wanted to do and about training here that I gave it a chance. We're going to have our first fight together on the 24th, like you said, at the Forum. So he's doing everything that I've asked. He's training hard like everybody else does here. So hopefully the outcome will be a little different than some of the fights in the past where he kind of faded towards the end.
We will get into him and we'll get into Gassiev, whose fight is up next. But everybody wants to know what's up with Gennady, one of the great fighters in the world, has been for a long time. Coming off what I think is a disappointing draw, more because of judging than anything else. Adelaide Bird's scorecard roundly criticized after that fight in September. I thought Gennady won the fight. How did you break down Gennady's performance in September 16th against Canelo Alvarez?
I thought we won 8-4. I understand the controversy. Adelaide was way out of line, but I think the one that hurt us the most was Don Trella, who gave Canelo the seventh round, which is probably Golovkin's
Best round of the fight.
best round of the fight. So that made it a draw. If Trella gives him the round and then Gennady wins the fight, which I thought he won anyway. I thought there's a lot of things that we're gonna try to work on for the next fight. I thought he had some moments where he could have capitalized on it, and he didn't. Canelo fought the fight necessary for him not to get knocked out. I thought he fought a great fight for the style that he fought. It wasn't the fight that the people expected. He talked a lot about knocking Gennady out before the fight, and Oscar did too, and Bernard. So hopefully the next fight they'll know each other better and they'll go at each other a little bit harder, and the fans will be treated not only to a great fight but a better fight than the last one.
I thought it was a good fight. I certainly, don't have any fault with Canelo's performance, given who he was fighting and a guy that could punch like he could. But if I'm breaking down Gennady, I thought he won the fight, so it's hard. We're just nitpicking here. I wondered if he didn't go to the body enough, where that's been a staple of his, and we know Gennady's a vicious body puncher. You can just ask Matt Macklin, who's now one of the top managers in boxing. He knows how Gennady can punch to the body. Do you agree with that? Do you think that if Gennady had gone to the body more, that maybe the result of the fight would have been different?
Well, it's difficult when a guy doesn't want to be a little more stationary to go to the body like Gennady has done in the past. He did hit him with a body shot in the fourth or fifth round, and Kenny Bayless had warmed him because he hit him in the back. And the reason he hit him in the back is Canelo's turning his body to avoid some of the shots, and when he turned his back, he hit him in the back. So it was the kind of fight that you don't want to get in a position where you're going to get a point taken away. I'm sure a lot of those thoughts went through his mind. We haven't sat down and really watched the fight yet. But I did notice that when he did do that, he stayed away from the body after that. But it's difficult, like I said, to punch a target that is um, close to running away from you. So again, Canelo may be a different fight next time. It'll be a better body punching exhibition on both sides. I think the Canelo goes to the body very well too, but he's got to be there in order to do it.
I always believe there's something to be said for the fear of the unknown. And Canelo did not know what he was getting into. You know, you hear all these tales of Golovkin's punching power. He had knocked out 20 some in a row. It was an incredible
23. Yeah.
23 in a row before that fight. An incredible streak. And even with a great fighter, and hey, Canelo's a great fighter. Let's not mince words here. He's a great fighter. But that had to get in his mind. Now that he's gone 12 rounds with Gennady and he knows he can go, would you suspect when the rematch, if and when the rematch is made, that Canelo will fight maybe more confidently because he's done it before?
I think so. Because there was moments in that fight where he stood his ground and went after Golovkin and he landed some shots. So, but the question I think in his mind is going to be, can I do that for 12 rounds? If he does that in certain moments in the fight, more often in the fight, I think we'll have for a better fight because there'll be exchanges where somebody may catch somebody. You know, you never know. Canelo's a good puncher also. And Golovkin's he's never been down, never been hurt, but who knows? Anybody can be hurt if hit on the chin.
Now I know sparring is just sparring, but you bring in a lot of big time fighters to spar with Golovkin, and I know you used to train the light heavyweight champion Sergey Kovalev, and you had them spar. Did he ever hurt Gennady? You know, was Kovalev one of the biggest punchers in the light heavyweight division? Was he able to hit Gennady and hurt him?
No, he never hurt Gennady. But remember, they're sparring with 18-ounce gloves. They're sparring with headgear. They're sparring with protection. So they're not really going after each other. They once in a while get lucky and will land a shot that hurts the other guy. But in their sparring, no, he never hurt Golovkin. Nobody's ever hurt Golovkin in this gym. Nobody's ever. I've never seen him hit with a shot. I've seen him hit with a lot of shots, but never with a shot that I thought he took a step back or kind of thought about it. But then again, the sparring, that's a whole different game in here than it is fight night.
Exactly. One other thing, and we'll talk about it. The middleweight division is one of the glamour divisions in the history of the sport. When you think about it, there were so many great middleweights, all the way back to Harry Greb. And when you go through Marvin Hagler, Carlos Monzon, you mentioned Bernard Hopkins before, Sugar Ray Robinson, who I believe is the greatest fighter who ever lived. Most people think of him as a welterweight, but he also was a middleweight champion. Where do you think Gennady fits in, if at all, in that all-time conversation for all-time best middleweight?
I think if we get the rematch done and he fights in another division with a couple other champions, I think then he'll be considered amongst those names of Robinson. I think that there's some names that he's on par with right now, some of the great names, but to be up there with Robinson and with Greb, as you mentioned, Marvin Hagler, I think, is up there also. I think he's going to need a couple more fights at that level to be able to be considered one of the greats.
Yeah, to me, like when I look at Robinson as the greatest, people who bring up Floyd Mayweather, and I have immense respect for Floyd Mayweather, but I think Robinson defeated 19 Hall of Famers, and that's the one thing Gennady doesn't have. There hasn't been the great opponents there for him, and the guys that have been there haven't wanted to fight him. Do you think that's the one shortcoming he has when you compare him against some of the, Marvin Hagler fought everybody, that type of thing?
I think so. I think today's boxing business is exactly that, a business now. It's not really where the best fight the best and we get to see great fights. Unfortunately, it's that way. But I think the records that he's setting in his division are going to be unparalleled. I don't think he's going to have guys that are going to be knocking 23 guys out in a row. I don't think they're going to have that kind of knockout average, at least in the future. And none of the guys that we mentioned in the past did that. But I think you have to say that they fought some of the better opposition because the opposition was there for them.
Now I'm going to transition to the other guys, but before we do, I want to have you tell my viewers one other thing. Gennady's son is a terrific athlete as well, but maybe not a boxer. Gennady's son, pretty good in sports. Let me hear about it.
Yeah, actually, he's a heck of a hockey player. He's an 8-year-old young man. When I saw him last playing hockey, playing in a 10-year-old team. And he's excellent. He's very aggressive, just like G is. And I think that if he sticks with it, we may be hearing his name in some of those pro leagues.
That is awesome. I'm talking to Abel Sanchez, one of the best trainers in the world. He's going to be in Russia on February 3rd at the site of the Olympics, Sochi, Russia. Murat Gassiev is 25-0, 18 knockouts. One of my favorite fighters in boxing. I just think is a terrific talent. A guy that a lot of people, even in the United States here, don't know just yet, fighting Junior Dorticos. Tell me, first of all, about Gassiev. How does he compare to some of the best fighters in the world, and how great is his potential in your opinion?
Well, I first got him in the gym when he had 16 fights. He was only 19 years old, 190 pounds, just a small cruiserweight. He's matured so well, but he's matured so well because of the environment, because of Golovkin being here, because of all the champions that have trained here, and he's really pushing himself to be the best in the world. I think that he ranks up there right now, but unfortunately for the U.S. market, the cruiserweight division is not a division that
Right.
looked at really. I don't know why TV hasn't bought this particular
There's a
fight
lot
in
of great
America.
great cruiserweights out there. Yeah.
Oh, heck yes. But this fight, I think, is the fight between two of the cruiserweights in this tournament who are most marketable. They're the big punchers, and that's what the American public likes to see. The winner of this goes against the winner of Bradis and Usyk, and that should be a barn burner. So I think that the 8 cruiserweights that were put in this tournament are probably the best 8 fighters in just about any division. But Gassiev has got a tough fight on his hands in the third. Dorticos is 21-0 with 20 knockouts. So he's a big puncher. So hopefully the fight doesn't end quick so that we can see at least some kind of action about their ability, about what they can do as a boxer.
Does Gassiev have boxing skills, or is he more a guy that is just looking for that one big shot?
No. He has very good boxing skills. He's worked very hard in the gym to improve on his boxing skills. I've sparred him with every heavyweight you could imagine down here in Southern California, and he does very well. I had him sparring with Kaladze, who's getting ready to fight some unbeaten Polish heavyweight back east. And Galatsi was Klitschko's sparring partner for many, many years. So he does have boxing skills. Unfortunately, when these punchers get knockouts early in a fight, they seem to gravitate to that. But I think that knowing that we're fighting a guy with the same power, if not more power, we're going to box a little bit more, and we're going to be smart in the ring.
Yeah, I think he's really. I love his footwork. I like how he sets up his punches. I'm really impressed by Gassiev. I think, and I wrote this before, and some people said I'm crazy, but I'm looking at the heavyweight division with Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Joseph Parker holding titles, Tyson Fury if he ever comes back and gets in shape. There's some talent starting to show up there. I think Gassiev down the road could fit in that mix. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. He's only 24 years old. He's only 24 years old. He's coming back to camp from home at about 225, so we're having to melt him down to 200. He's right now at about 205, 206. I think that was what his 30-day weigh-in was. So, yes, he's very there's a strong possibility that if everything is successful in this tournament, we will look for a heavyweight title, just like Evander Holyfield did when he unified the cruiserweight division.
Yeah, and he went up and had great success at heavyweight. I think Gassiev could do the same thing. Finally, let's finish up with Carlos Cuadras. You referenced it a little bit earlier. A guy that was in a terrific fight his last time out against Estrada, fighting McWilliams Arroyo. For people, maybe he's going to be fighting on HBO on February 24th. For people who are not familiar with him, what can they expect to see out of Carlos Cuadras?
Well, first of all, he's a very good athlete. He's 36-2, I believe. His loss was to one of them was to Chocolatito, and then to Estrada. He fought a great fight with Chocolatito. Many people thought he won. He's an exceptional boxer, very unpredictable. But what he's lacked in the past is the discipline. And I think a lot of coaches have said that Rudy Hernandez, who trained him for a couple of fights before me, said that he just lacked the discipline and the dedication in the gym to do the things necessary to get himself in the best shape possible. He's got the talent, but sometimes talent against the good guys is not enough. So this 10-week training camp with me, we started sparring last week. Hopefully we'll give him that extra edge in the last part of the fight that he'll be able to pull fights out. But he can crack too. It's just in the past he's been hesitant, I think, of tiring. So he hasn't really gone after guys. But hopefully we get it into his mind what he can do. McWilliams Arroyo will be a victim and will be knocked out late in the fight.
Well, that's going to be interesting to see. Abel, we appreciate you. Always love watching your fighters because I know one thing about Abel Sanchez fighters. They are going to be in shape and they are going to come to fight. Those two things, whether they're talented or not, you never know. But I know those two things are always true.
That's very true. I think that we owe the fans that. We owe the fans an exciting fight, and I'm not saying a crazy fight, but an exciting fight where the guys at least are trying to knock each other out. And if we do that, then I think they're going to want to come back. Hopefully, my golf game improves like my fighters are improving, and I can beat you for once. But it's been nice talking to you. I'm happy to be hearing from you, and hopefully, I'll be in Vegas very soon.
Hopefully, we can get out on the golf course and share some
Yes.
stories once again. That's Abel Sanchez. I'm Kevin Iole from Yahoo Sports. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin.